The nighttime is the right time for racing at Phoenix. Welcome everyone to the premier sim racing Outlap Motorsports Truck Series here live on Green Flag TV. Welcome in, happy to have you here. I am Derrick Watson. Next to me is Brad Daniels. Evan Posocco has the night off, and of course Dustin Ollis is pushing the buttons and making us look and sound good behind the production truck. Well, Brad, here we are at Phoenix, the site of the real life championships. For us, it's the beginning of the round of 8. The pressure is on for these 8 drivers.
Yeah, and we are down here in the great state of Arizona, where typically, you're turning up the heat down here in the desert. But, here tonight, under the lights, it's going to be an interesting one to start to the round of 8.
Yeah, well, probably will be very interesting and very cool. Wait and see. Of course, here we are this week at Phoenix. Next week, we go to that state up north. I'm as an Ohio native, I'm not allowed to use that word in the month of November, but you see it on your screen there. And then we'll finish off the round of 8, Brad, a very interesting way at COTA for the Rosemary Custom Homes 110. That'll be the NASCAR layout of COTA. And then we'll crown a winner in a few weeks' time at Auto Club Speedway. Speaking of crowning winners and crowning champions, let's start by looking at the season points here. On top of the playoffs, Brad, there is also a season 4 driver standing. There's a couple of things in here to make note of. So Bradley Holly and Richard Regan are tied for the lead, literally 221 apiece. But the other thing to note, there's a best of the rest competition this season, Brad, for drivers who didn't make the playoffs. And right now, it's kind of down the list a little bit. So we'll show it next week, but Mike Toomer Jr. would win that contest. But these season points are darn close.
Yeah, and Richard Regan and Bradley Hawley last week, they couldn't really get away from each other, ending up 1-2 at Martinsville. So, nothing really falling apart there for the top 2. But, it's like you said, these guys really between these top 2 are just, fighting for what they can. And you can see a good bit of point separation moving into the playoff standings now. I mean, Richard Regan, Bradley Hawley up there, they got a big cut or a big jump on the cut line there. And, Ted Lowendick as well has a great buffer down to that, cut line. But everyone else really just trying to fight and starting it here in Phoenix.
Yeah, 5 drivers, Mark Kalin, Morgan, James Morgan, Jeff Evans, Steve Loving, and Robert Barney, all right there on the cut line. For Holly and Regan is basically, Brad, turn the truck on and you advance. For Lowendick, he probably needs to have one good race. Just survive is probably the goal there. But for Kalin, for Morgan, Evans, Loving, or Barney, it's going to be a dogfight. But what could really mess this up is those win and ends. Imagine we get to a point where, let's say if 3 of those 4 guys in the bottom all win, maybe it's not advance on points. So we'll have to wait and see what turns out here into the round of 8. Well, as we get ready for tonight's coverage of the Premier Sim Racing Outlap Motorsports Truck Series, I want to take a moment and thank our sponsors for the evening. And we'll actually start with Outlap Motorsports. At Outlap, motorsports is more than just a hobby. It's therapy. They know that in the garage, in the paddock, and in the driver's seat, those can be safe spaces. That's why Outlap proudly supports men's mental health and encourages drivers to check in with each other on and off the track. Because what happens off the track is just as important as what happens on it. Outlap Motorsports.
And next we got Hyperion Racing. Hyperion Racing is a top-tier esports team competing at the highest levels of sports car racing on iRacing. With a focus on endurance and team events, the team is built for performance and results. While sports car racing is our battleground, oval racing has always been a core part of our identity and blood. From short tracks to super speedways, Hyperion Racing applies the same strategy, precision, and competitive edge to every race. Hyperion Racing, believe the hype.
Hype is real for a few drivers tonight as we take a look at tonight's Profit Python starting grid. And that hype is real for, 2 of those 4 drivers talking about who may be locked in. Richard Regan Jr. is on the pole, a 26.960. He's got Ted Lowendick to his outside. That's a real close moment there. Jeffrey Evans is back in P3. He needs a solid night in points. He's next to Jacob Dunn in the 3 car, who's back in P4. Nicholas Schwartz in the 171 is next to Robert Barney back in P6. Barney needs to have a solid night. Bradley Holly likely advances tonight after this race. He's next to Zach Williams back in P8. P9, Colton Lane in the 60 truck, and he's next to Steve Loving back in P10, Brad.
Looking back at row 6, we have Nicholas Acosta in the 816 to his outside. Mark Kalin, who's just sitting in that 4th spot for now, going to try and make his way through the field. And you can see behind him Doug Evans in the 13th spot, along with Nicholas Serif in the 14th spot. In row 8, we got Zachary Burnt in the 15th position, and 16th, Matt Gagnon. In 17th, it's James Morgan, who's going to try and get his way into the next round, along with Reese Bogue, who's sitting in 18th. Looking at Mike Toomer Jr. and Nicholas Godina to round out your top 20.
Couple drivers left on the grid here. Evan Williams in the Profit Python machine. He'll be back in P21. Next to Colton Easterday, back in P22, that Lightning McQueen style livery. And then Nicholas Hunter back in P23. And that rounds out your Profit Python starting grid. You know, at Profit Python, every second counts on the track and in the world of deals. That's the edge that Profit Python delivered. It's the ultimate Discord for deal hunters and side hustlers, with lightning fast alerts on price drops, secret sales, and hidden jackpots before the rest of the world catches on. The race to profit is on, so scan the QR code to join now. Profit Python. Strike fast. Profit faster. Well, Brad, I like that tagline. We do it every week. Strike fast, profit faster. Striking fast is likely to go here tonight for a bunch of drivers. Here we are at Phoenix. Of course, it's a very fast, rapid start with that use of the dog leg. And there's 8 drivers at least who want to strike fast and get to the front of this field.
And I know that, you know, being here in Phoenix, it offers a lot of different opportunities that you wouldn't see at really any other course in the world. I mean, you got that dog leg, like we mentioned, but I think patience is going to be very key, because, you know, you can see him going through 1 here. This turn just feels like forever from the driver's perspective, and at times you just got to hold off on that throttle, make sure you don't loop it around coming out of turn 1 and 2. And you know, for drivers here tonight, I think if they want to strike fast and not put themselves in the hole, they're going to have to try and keep patient and get their way through the field here tonight.
Well, I like that word patient, because here's probably the longest drive that you make without a pace car in iRacing. You have to sit there and wait for that restart zone that's marked in red on the inside and outside of the track. Richard Regan waits for the green flag. It comes out right now, and we are about to be green flag racing at Phoenix Raceway. Well, Brad, we talked about the dog leg. It didn't take long, did it? They were 2, 3, maybe 4 wide in the back of the field through the dog leg. Regan gets a big jump up through turns 1 and 2, but he's got Lowendick and Jeff Evans side by side behind him.
That battle for second ongoing. It looks like Lowendick is able to get by, and now Jeff Evans is getting a little bit of a battle here with Jacob Dunn on the outside here, going through 3 and 4, and now jumping back out, looking into this battle yet again, using that dog leg. You can see for those on the inside, you got to try and use as much of that dog leg as possible. And we saw Richard Regan use every inch of that dog leg on the initial start, try to get as much momentum going into turn 1. And you can see everyone else trying to just do anything they can through the dog leg along with 1 and 2.
Yeah, lots of movement up and down the field. Currently seeing many drivers trying to find different lanes here, but now single file, 5 cars deep. It's Regan, Lowendick, Dunn, Evans, and Robert Barney here up front so far. You see there's the fastest lap moving around little by little, currently owned by Bradley Holly. He's going to send us up at 27.443, and likely, Brad, as this night goes on and this track cools off, I think that fastest lap will probably transfer hands a few more times.
And especially with, you know, this being, you know, a night race, these tires are going to take a little bit more time to get that heat in the tires. And, you know, we'll see these drivers able to maybe extend the usefulness of these tires an extra lap or 2 because of these cool temperatures. But right now, jumping back for the battle for second right now, Jacob Dunn is on a warpath up to the front, looking to the inside of Ted Lowendick coming out of 2. And down the backstretch, Lowendick is going to have a little bit of an advantage with that run. But looking from the backside of Richard Regan now, you can see Jacob Dunn able to just power in front for that second spot.
Dunn's having a great run so far. Maybe his best run in a long time. That's not at a super speedway. You know, last week in the PSR Discord, Brad, we had a talk about superstitions. You know, I bring up this right now for Jacob Dunn. Jacob Dunn has a superstition, a little unique, Brad. He says he only runs well in PSR the nights that he has Mexican food before the race.
I mean, you probably have some great Mexican food down in Phoenix. And, you know, if he had any of that Mexican food down there in the great state of Arizona, I mean, he might be looking for more than a win. He might lap the field. And we'll just have to see just what happens here. But you can see just a calamity of cars right now. Looking to the inside, it's Ted Lowendick yet again. He's not able to get away from the cars behind. Richard Regan is loving all this racing behind him, but he's still only a 10th in front of this whole group. And you can see maybe Dunn looking to the inside a little bit and not able to get his nose in there. Richard Regan shuts the door on that one. And you can see also 6 of the top 7 drivers in the playoffs. So right now, if you're not in that top 7, you're losing some crucial points.
Yeah, Dunn's sort of the odd man out here, isn't he? He's really running really well so far. He's trying to get up there. He's trying to kind of be a menace. Just get, as you said, that nose up under Richard Regan Jr. and see if he can maybe block a run or find a way in. But now he falls back in line. In the third, there's a big scuffle on back. Colton Lane jumped to the inside. I think someone's hit the wall, and you saw everyone kind of scatter out of nerves. But we're going to stay green here at Phoenix. You know, you talked about it being a nighttime race. If we take a look at our time and our weather here on screen in a second, we're going to see it pop up, and you'll see how cool this track is. As we're going to watch this just up in the first minute. I think Colton Lane, I think what happened is 62 Mark Cannon got up the wall, and then they sort of scuffled behind him and got Lane a little loose. But look at that, 73 degrees Fahrenheit on this track, Brad. It's already 7:12 p.m. virtual sim time. But that is about as cold of a track at Phoenix as I can remember racing on one time.
Yeah, considering not even, you know, the track of Phoenix here. I mean, the city of Phoenix, I don't know how long it stays below 80 degrees, but, you know, these drivers are in some unfamiliar territories. It looks like the 28 is slow coming out of 2 and 3 here, hitting the wall some more. Zachary Burnt, it looks like he's currently trying to nurse that truck around. You can see the damage to the front right of that truck. And unfortunately for that Tropicana paint scheme, they're going to be a little more dense on that right side.
Yeah, it looks like the way, doesn't it? So he'll be in the back of the field. Up front here, look at this. Here's a battle for the lead. This is Jeff Evans. This is Richard Regan Jr. Remember, Jeff Evans came out in the first race of the last round and locked his spot in the playoffs with a race victory. Surprised, I think, himself and many others. Could he do it again in round 1 here again? Or race 1 of round 8, I should say. Well, he's trying to make the run. He's right there with Richard Regan. So now it's Regan, Evans, Dunn, and Lowendick. Watch the replay of Zachary Burnt. This is what you saw live, and let's see what's going to happen. It's going to maybe a little bit of a nudge from Nicholas Hunter, and up in the wall he goes. And boy, Brad, this track is one where aerodynamics does matter, so that's going to hurt that truck.
Especially in, you know, there's a lot of different things we've talked about so far about how unique Phoenix can be, but, you know, from a driver's perspective, we just got to keep it consistent, and, you know, that aero damage is definitely not going to make your car any more stable and maybe a little more unpredictable in sorts. But right now, you can see Richard Regan able to pull away and keep his lead right now, riding on board with the 56. And you can see the foot cam right now, just, you know, it's still a short track here. We're still at this mile track, and, you know, we still got to use a lot of brake. Unlike Martinsville, it's not like a lot of action between the left and right foot. But still, nonetheless, you can see just the absolute composure you have to keep, just letting the throttle, you know, die down a little bit and let the truck come to you through turns 1 and 2, because it feels like it never ends sometimes.
Boy, you know, as a commentator and as a broadcast, you know, person, I love this foot cam, Brad. As a competitor, if I was Rich, I'd be skeptical about putting my foot cam out there. I mean, there's some drivers who may get to sit back and study this when they watch the race back and say, oh, that's where he's braking. Oh, that's what he's doing. And kind of start to learn those patterns. Let's watch him here through the corner, though, on the gas. And he barely ever really touches the brakes. You know, step out of the corner here. I was surprised how little braking there is. It's a lot of lifting and very little braking.
And one thing also that's nice about Phoenix, you don't see it while we're flying back past this catch fence, but there are cones in the catch fence that do indicate braking zones that help the drivers find when they want to brake. Especially that might be vital when they're behind another driver or further into this run, and to, you know, try to compensate for any type of run that maybe like Ted Lowendick has right now, maybe trying to get by Jacob Dunn right now. You can see looking out front of Bradley Hawley, watching these two scuffle it out through turns 4, and now coming up to the start-finish line. These two nose-to-nose coming across the line, and, you know, these drivers have done a great job of keeping themselves, you know, when they're in these two wide battles, keeping a lot of room between each other. I don't think we've seen too much, contact between any of these trucks here tonight.
Look at the ominous red glow in the room of Bradley Holly. Tippy, he matches the glow to the color of the truck, but this week, you notice I think all the Miracle Flow trucks, and we'll look at it later, all have went with the Halloween theme, and they all have different looks on them. We saw one with Jeff Evans earlier. I believe there's also one on Doug Evans as well. So we'll go through that later, but a very ominous red glow in the room of Bradley Holly. Now, Brad, here's something that's kind of unique about this camera shot. We get 2 cameras from Mr. Holly. There's your first one. And let's see if the second one is working. It's broken. See that little webcam he's wearing above his head? Typically, that gives us our own little driver eye view. Being told by our producer that one may be offline for the moment, so we won't get both views tonight, but it's a very unique view when it does happen.
That would have been a great view to see if, maybe some technical malfunction there. But right now, we're going to look back up towards the front. There's a little bit of a battle going on yet again. Richard Regan, Jeff Evans going at it side by side, coming out of 2 down the backstretch, nose to nose. You could see Richard Regan able to get a little bit of a run down that backstretch, but not enough to clear the 51. 51's going to keep it to the inside, but Regan's doing a great job of using that outside and getting those runs coming out of the corners, able to keep that first place position for every lap so far of this race.
Yeah, great job, wasn't it, by Regan to defend his spot and keep it up there and keep it in first. That battle for 3rd and 4th rages on with Dunn and Lowendick on behind them. There's a battle again. That is Reese Bogue and Bradley Holly. These two, not strangers to one another. Reese Bogue, not a stranger to using a bumper here or there, so they had a little bit of contact and all continues on. So right now, here we are, already about 10 minutes into this race. We've done green flag racing so far, and pretty solid set of racing up and down the field. And say, I mean, even look back to, if we go back to P10, P11, Colton Lane and Mark Kalin are battling it out. Like, there's a lot of great battles happening up and down this track. It's only a mile racetrack, Brad. That's the thing that's hardest to remember, I think, about Phoenix. It looks so big, maybe because of how big these corners sweep around. This is a 1 mile facility.
And, we don't have that, active lap counter, but these guys are just ticking away the laps. And with that, ticking away the, rubber on their tires, as you see Ted Lowendick keeping that 3rd place spot. And these two behind, Reese Bogue and Bradley Holly, I feel like have just been side by side for the last 3 laps or so. Reese Bogue, I mean, he started 18th, up 12 positions, pushing his way through the field right now, trying to get into that top 5. And, nonetheless, you can see using every inch of that dog leg. And for, those drivers on that outside line coming through the dog leg, you also can't go that deep into the dog leg because obviously that car below might not go as deep as you think he or she is going to go. And right now, you can see Reese Bogue is really just sitting on a line of his own, trying to just get somewhere, maybe past Bradley Holly, but it's not really working out so far as he's just been sitting here battling his heart out.
Really has, hasn't he? Bogue is back this week after serving that 1 race suspension for what the race committee determined to be an intentional caution at the super speedway. So he had an end of line penalty tonight, so he's already up 13 spots on the evening. Now Bradley Holly gets to be the menace. He gets to be the terrorizer using that Halloween theme. Let's see what he does from the back end of Mr. Reese Bogue. You see he's going to get up really close here and just kind of keep his ground. Now watch up here on the right, Brad. Let's see if we can find those cones you talked about a second ago. They're going to move by pretty fast. Right there's 3, 2, 1. If you're not looking for them, they go by really fast.
We're going to look back here. We got a playoff driver in James Morgan alongside Zach Williams. These two were battling out. Looks like James Morgan is able to power on through, though. James Morgan currently the 8th out of 8 playoff drivers in the field right now. He's, losing some points on the cut line, but, for this early in the round of 8, and especially, I think we talked about it, in the pre-race show, if anyone ends up with a win, that just causes a lot more mayhem than any other round because, if you have 3 different drivers, that's just one driver that has to get on points. And unless you're Richard Regan or Bradley Holly, that position, you got to work a heck of a lot more and try to, maybe get some good positions. And James Morgan right now, I mean, he is moving up through the field from 17th to 14th, but right now it's not too much or not enough right now. But, looking back, battle for 4th, Reese Bogue, Jacob Dunn, Reese Bogue sliding his way up there in front of the 3 machine and now able to clearly take that 4th place position for that 4 truck. And that's another one down, 3 more to go for the 4.
Yeah, doing a great job as the Ford truck. Look on back. This is side by side. That's Mark Kalin and Nicholas Schwartz. They're battling here. Kalin, of course, comes in tonight ahead of that line by a few points. Wants to hold on to it here. You know, we talked about superstitions and kind of keeping, I guess, with the Halloween week theme. I think Mark and a couple others said last week that they hit the superstition for iRacing, Brad, that if they wear a certain shirt this week or a certain whatever pair of socks and you don't finish well, you don't wear those again next week. There was a lot of superstitions discussed in the Discord last week, and that was one of them. Was, hey, some people think they have lucky shirts or unlucky shirts, and they keep track of that.
I think the Kentucky shirt right now, obviously not in the right state, but might be that lucky little edge that Mark Kalin can get. Right now sitting in 10th, trying to make his way up through the field. But, you know, I feel like I have the same superstition, and half the time I feel like it's better to just not watch the game, because anytime I don't watch the game for any sport, they win, whoever I'm cheering for. I don't know how it works, but it just happens.
Well, what's happening right now is Nicholas Hunter all over the back end of Matt Gagnon, and Doug Evans is involved in that battle. There's the Prophet Python machine of Williams back there in that battle, and all is working out here for the moment. We'll see if everyone stays patient. There's Matt on the webcam. Got the nice racing seats. Got the looks like maybe a half-made bed behind him. So something always fun to pay attention to in sim racing is how well people do or don't make their beds. But right now, Matt's trying to make this corner down in the 3 and 4 here. And got plenty of space on the bottom with Williams drifting up. See if he makes the pass. Matt, of course, was originally a playoff driver, got eliminated in a previous round, and he's now made the pass here, and he'll be good here. So great pass by Matt Gagnon. That's for P15.
If it looks like, well, right now Williams is able to power on the outside, but there's a 2-second gap to James Morgan in front. So these two are just really trying to battle for 14th, and there's about 3 other drivers now trying to join the battle. And, you know, all these guys in a little group on an island of their own behind everyone else right now that's, you know, sitting up there in the top 14 trying to just power their way through. The top 3 right now still under that blanket. I mean, Richard Regan doing a great job in getting that second lead now, and right behind him Jeff Evans, Ted Lowendick are battling it out for second place.
Yeah, right now Regan's got a 1-second lead on this field as we begin lap number 31. Keep in mind the magical number. I was told by different drivers tonight, the number varying somewhere, Brad, between 70 to 80 laps is what I was kind of being hinted at of what a fuel run could be. So we're about halfway through that fuel run here. So we'll see if that does continue on. But it's Lowendick on the inside in the pink truck with the gummy cluster. It's Jeff Evans on the outside with the spooky Halloween theme. And then Reese Bogue trying to kind of creep on in there to what kind of impact he can make here. But boy, look at the 2 different lines. Evans all the way up to the wall. Lowendick way deep in the dog leg.
And I think it's kind of that part you have to be a little bit hesitant on that outside going through the dog leg. And I know, you know, obviously the safest route is keeping it up near the walls. You see Ted Lowendick able to power on through now for that second place position. And, you know, it just depending on the driver, how aggressive you want to be through the dog leg. It looks like Jeff Evans is giving a little bit of a push there through the dog leg.
I thought for a second, how that push when the angle they were going to the corner. I was really scared for a second about where those trucks were headed, but they got it worked out.
And I mean, that transition onto the apron, you know, in the dog leg too, something that might not seem like something that's critical, but if you hit that the wrong angle, like you said, it could just absolutely send your truck sideways, throwing you into that inside wall. But right now, everyone, you know, seems to have it down to a science and able to keep it straight. I don't think anyone has really gotten loose as we're looking for a battle right now back in the 9th place position and maybe 8th.
Yeah, this is the battle right now with Mark Kalin. That's Colton Lane to the inside, Kalin outside. That's Steve Loving up ahead. He's also a playoff driver. So this is the battle for 8th, 9th, and 10th on your screen right now. And, you know, coming back to what you said about, you know, kind of being surprised or kind of making a note that no one's gotten loose. To be honest with you, Brad, with how cold this track is, I'm not sure anyone really could get the truck loose. It might be a real accomplishment to have a loose race truck with these kind of good temps.
I mean, you're right. Yeah, I didn't think about, you know, the temperature alongside with these trucks, and I think maybe I have some bad memories riding trucks or next gens anywhere here in Phoenix whenever you race. I do enjoy running this track. It is one of my favorites to run on the iRacing platform. But, you know, obviously I think it takes practice for a lot of these drivers that might not be used to it. Everyone running this outside line, though, going through 1 and 2. And, you know, I thought for a second there, Mark Kalin might have hit the wall, but I don't think so. I mean, nonetheless, these guys just sending it up there.
Yeah, doing a pretty solid job, all things considered, and just really logging lap after lap as the clock ticks down. We're now under about 57.5 minutes to go, so we're working our way through about 20 minutes into this race and working our way towards being more than halfway through the field run. That was almost contact between Steve Loving and Mark Kalin. Mark also with the black and orange truck this week. Lots of drivers celebrating Halloween with those paint schemes, Brad.
It's a great sight. I mean, obviously, time to do it. We got Halloween this Friday as we're looking right now at a battle for 12th. It looks like we got Nicholas Seraph and the 16th. My apologies. Got the wrong number there. But anyways, Williams heading this crowd right now. You can see coming through the dog leg. And it looks like Williams is going to be able to lead the charge ahead of some other drivers like Mike Toomer Jr. that's in the back. This little sandwich right now can't really get away from each other. I think it's been about 5, maybe 6 minutes since we tuned in, and no one has really broken away.
No, maybe if someone's moved up or down, you know, high versus low or whatever. But I mean, this battle right now between Kalin and Doug Evans, that thing's been going on forever right now. And Doug Evans was clear, and Matt Gagnon got to his back quarter panel, and I thought it was going to be bad, but Gagnon's dug it way to the inside. So Gagnon takes the lead again here. Remember, this is, you said, the battle for P16 on track. It's 17 and 18 between Matt Gagnon. That's that Outlap Motorsports truck on the inside, and the very bright highlighter greenish style of Miracle Flow truck of Doug Evans. We're going to keep the battle going on here. Up front, you're not missing anything. Richard, Regan has pulled a 1.2 second gap as Doug Evans just scrubbed the wall. And there, in fact, right there is a couple trucks. They moved to the bottom. That's Matt Gagnon and Mike Toomer. I think they got nervous because some of the wall hits, and they just dug it way to the inside.
And, you know, that's obviously going to hurt. That outside wall is not nice here in Phoenix, and you can see right now, the 89 of Zach Williams sending it up there through 3 and 4. Might have missed their braking zone, but nonetheless, it's going to open the door for Matt Gagnon to make his way through and take that 16th spot route. Now, that rotunda of the 16th position keeps on rolling.
Yep. Well, you know what, Brad? Let's do this. While we're having a fun looking at Phoenix and how great the race was, we should also remind ourselves how amazing the race was 1 week ago. Look at the overhead shot here provided by Mr. Hedge of the Martinsville Speedway. And it's where we raced last week. We determined our round of 8. The cars went around the paperclip numerous amounts of times, had a long green flag run at one point. And then, of course, ultimately, some calamity broke loose. Points were decided in the last lap. Robert Barney in, Thomas Sink out was the last call. And a wild night of racing. The photo provided by Mr. Hedge. You know, at Mr. Head, sim racing is full of unforgettable moments, and Mr. Hedge can help you capture them all. From their first wins to fresh liveries to even those crashes you'll never forget, even if you want to. Mr. Hedge turns virtual racing into memories worth sharing. They're clean, they're sharp, and they're made for sim racers. Visit mrhedge.co.uk to get the best moments in focus from Mr. Hedge. Well, you see all the sights and sounds there, and you know, I know you had a chance to watch back the Martinsville race. Of course, Richard Regan won, and I guess locked his way in, but was in on points regardless. So lots of battles last week, but I mean, the battle right now this week, Richard Regan leading again here, 1.5 seconds on the field. And by the way, the bigger story, I think, is the P2. Ted Lowendick has now opened up a 1 second gap on Jeff Evans. Remember, at one point, Lowendick and Evans were side by side.
And now it looks like side-by-side is happening for Jeff Evans and Reese Bogue. Bogue, again, trying to make his way up through the field. He didn't use up any of his tires. It looks like battling his way through. He's able to keep it up here with the top 3, and he's got that nose out in front coming to 3 and 4. But jumping back out to the outside is Jeff Evans. And, you know, these guys right now, Reese Bogue is probably one of the scariest drivers on the track right now. You know, everyone has their Halloween paint schemes, but if you see that 4 in your rear view mirror, you just, as you see a little bit of contact between the two, Bogue is able to save it a little bit there. Got him a little loose coming out of 2, but able to save it for the 4 machine. And now they're side by side yet again, rolled reverse coming through 3 and 4.
I think if that's who I think it is in the front of Jeff Evans' car, he may want to drop a house on Reese Bogue right now and just move on with that and be done with him. But right now in the back, that is, I believe, Bradley Holly about to get involved in this battle as well. Brad's going to be back there, and he has his own Halloween paint scheme, so he'll get mixed up in this battle in just a moment or so. But on back there's Dunn and Robert Barney. They're side by side. This is the battle for P6 and P7 on the track. And remember, Barney's a playoff driver. He's trying to find every spot possible to help secure some points.
And Barney, he's the epitome right now of every point matters, winning or getting in by 1 point last round, and trying to get every position he can, because obviously every point matters for a lot of these drivers. As that 4th place position right now in points is up for grabs for the most part, but nonetheless, a win you're in. That's the basic science of it. And Mark Kalin might be trying to get up to maybe the top 6 here, as he's also inching his way into this battle. Now looking to the inside of Jacob Dunn. Dunn keeping it to the outside as Barney is able to clear the 3. So now it's a battle for 7th as of right now. And the 3 gets into the wall. That's going to give Kalin a great run and able to clear him for the 7th place position.
Yep, Dunn moved back a little bit, and then, as you said, allowed Kalin to slip into the middle of that 3-person line there. And they'll keep moving on. Robert Barney having a solid run up in P6. And remember, Robert Barney came into tonight, I believe, pretty far down in the points. He really needs a solid night. And he's 20-some points back, if I do recall, from the points graphic. So he's not over for him, per se. But we'll see how that works as this 3-race gap goes on here. So working into still now almost down to 50 minutes on the clock. We've had a good 25-minute run here so far. We are now up to lap 52. So I think it's almost time to start talking about how important green flag stops are here.
And we talked about it before, the pace car had to dive in the pit road here just coming out of turn 2 here. You'll see the wall start right there. So these drivers are going to have to enter in 1 and 2 and then travel all the way around the track to get to their pit stalls. And, that's something that's unique to Phoenix, is just how awkward it feels like to enter the pits at, just during these green flag runs as well. It might be a little easier because you're already slowing down for the turn and rolling that corner. And you can just, not even gas it back up and send yourself down the pit road. But nonetheless, these drivers, it's all green so far. So you got to start thinking to yourself, when do I pit? When do I, maybe a potential undercut? If you're further back in the field, maybe like James Morgan, who, needs some points right now against all these other playoff drivers. Do I perform an undercut? And if I'm Richard Regan, how long do I stay out compared to everyone else?
Yeah, very good questions, right? I mean, and it's all a question you got to figure out. When do you want to pit? Does pitting, maybe help you find some clean air and a spot of the track? You kind of get to run your own line. Also making sure you don't want to pit too soon, because you don't want to get caught out in case something silly happens. And all those questions are working through a driver's mind right now as we're hinching here close down. There's Colton Lane down the road already. This I thought would be a little early compared to the numbers we were given. But the 60 truck down pit road here.
You might have heard us talking in the booth about this pit road strategy, and just immediately jumped it down pit road. Potential 2-stop strategy. There's the 60. We'll see how long he's going to take it down pit road. And with these laps only being around 26, 27, 28 laps at this point, they're going to go down multiple laps potentially, depending on where they are in the track and where they were running in this order. So obviously, that's another thing these drivers got to think, if a caution comes out, how bad in a situation am I?
Well, yeah, another thing to think about, too, right now is if you're going to, I would suspect right now if you're Colton Lane, you've got to be thinking about a 2-stop call, as you said. And what's in my mind to think about is our tire burn-off. So let's take a look at a couple of drivers. Richard Regan Jr., our leader, his fall-off was only 1 second so far. So the question is that enough of a fall off to make the gap on the 2-tire call, or the 2-stop call, pardon me, sorry, and make that work? As fast as lap you see are 27.6, 28.7, so just over 1 second time. And that's about what we're seeing, 1 to 1.3 seconds on that gap right there.
You can see, I mean, Jeff Evans included. He's about a little bit over 1 second of his fastest lap, so it's not too crazy of a fall off. But, you know, if you're looking back right now, you have 19 cars on the lead lap. A lot of these other drivers might have brought it down pit road to potentially do that two-stop strategy. But, you know, for all these other drivers looking on board now, we're sitting here currently rocking with Colton Lane. I mean, you're going to see a little bit loose right in front of him. I believe that might be the 6 of Evan Williams. And you could just see the absolute power you get from these fresh tires, how he's just cruising through these drivers right now.
And look at that, from that picture, almost like they're standing still, doesn't it? Just the power he has, the speed he has, the grip he has in the corner. He kind of holds the bottom and it sort of glides on through like a very poised, it's like an ice hockey skater or a figure skater. Just kind of glides to the corner right now. And so the problem for Colton Lane is a lap down, so he's got to get all the way back around to the leader and then start to cut through the field again. And so we'll see how well that goes as this race goes on.
And you can also see those RPMs, how they almost hit, you know, that limiter coming through that front stretch, and just the little bit of time between the brake and the gas for Colton Lane there. Another driver looking up here for the battle for 9th, Nicholas Schwartz and Steve Loving right now. These two trying to make something happen here, both currently sitting in the top 10, but that's right now not the concern for Steve Loving. He wants as many points as he can, and right now being in 10th and being 7th out of 8 playoff drivers is kind of annoying if you're Steve Loving, especially if you're James Morgan. You know, being last out of 8 other drivers, it looks like Steve Loving's bringing it down the pit road.
Yep, there comes Loving down pit road, so he'll come down here. This will be right around lap 61 as he's going to come down pit road. So it's about 10 laps shorter than what I thought some of the drivers were talking about in pre-race, about how long they can go here. And I think the other thing to talk about here, with this race staying green, us doing green flag pit stops so far, how well you get on and off of pit road at any track, whether it be Phoenix or elsewhere, could determine where you end up in this race, Brad. If you're willing to kind of be aggressive and push it right up against the speeding limit, you could gain a spot or two on track on pit road.
And the other thing, I mean, pit road exit goes right into that dogleg too, so you might have to look out for some drivers that are trying to cut that dogleg and get their way, as you see right now, right alongside with Nicholas Acosta. You can see, I mean, he did take that dogleg pretty deep, not into where the pit road exit would be, but just another thing, these drivers might, you know, if they want to be a little aggressive, cut up to that track and, you know, get those tires warm yet again. And you see a lot of drivers bringing down pit road now.
Yeah, it's a little maybe sooner than we thought, but I think once a couple drivers do it, and it's sort of that feeling, I always describe it, Brad, as it's like watching someone else open your Christmas present on Christmas morning, right? Once you see someone go buy a new tires and you see how cool it looks, you get a little jealous, right? It's like watching someone open that new video game you wanted for Christmas. You're like, oh, that looks so much fun. Well, that's what it's like when a driver goes by on new tires.
And you just have to get out of the way because there's nothing you can really do. And unfortunately for, you know, that Christmas present of new tires, it's just gonna, you know, it's gonna help you now. But, you know, if this race keeps going green, obviously, you know, those tires are gonna wear a lot longer. Well, you're gonna have to be on this stint for a lot longer than some other drivers that might be going in now, or even, you know, 5 laps from now, as a lot of the drivers still have not pitted. Nicholas Acosta has decided to bring down pit road there, as you can see on the right hand side of your screen.
Yeah, it looks like on your screen, it looks like maybe a P14 on up, roughly, maybe P12 on up. But Doug Evans might be the first one to have not pitted so far. So about half and half through the field have decided to pit here. I just wonder if some drivers are going to try to push this right to the halfway point of this race, see if they can make it a one-stopper, and see what the difference is.
And obviously, the less you're on pit road, you're going to gain a lot more on track, because the fall off, we're still looking around second and a half right now for a lot of these drivers. So it's not a crazy amount, but Richard Regan, our leader, coming down pit road now.
Ooh, that was, speaking of attacking pit road, that looked fast. I think he's going to be good on the speeding. No penalty that I can see in our notices, but I mean, that was maybe the best we've seen so far at attacking pit road.
And I mean, you can see, I definitely thought that was going to be a black flag. That just was a great entry from Richard Regan. And, you know, everyone else, you know, I don't know how many people practiced that, but Richard Regan nailed it right there. Is Reese Bogue, someone also that was fairly far up there coming in with the leader, maybe trying to just match strategies so he can, not really be at a disadvantage and be on the same ground as the 56. You can see some more coming down pit road, including Jacob Dunn, Nicholas Schwartz included.
Schwartz was loose back there. If you saw that truck wiggle in the background, but very wild moment. Well, so far, I mean, everyone now. Mark Cannon, I've heard, is called pitting. Looks like some others may be coming down here. Ted Lomadick's down pit road. So it feels like what we thought at one point would be drivers trying the one-stop call may not be a reality. And we're still about, 10 minutes from halfway through this race. And everyone down pit road. Nicholas Godina, black flagged for pit road, speeding on exit. So we talked about how tricky it is. You don't want to attack pit road too hard, or that's what happens to you.
And I think, one thing too, we were, talking about how Richard Regan had that great entry to pit road. You can see, I mean, he ended up on pit lane almost a second and a half less than Reese Bogue, even though Bogue had about a second or a half second less in his pit stall. So that just shows you how great of an entry to pit road that was. Is we still have some battling going on track. You can see Matt Gagnon along with some others. Looks like Doug Evans is also for position there, along with maybe some other lap traffic. And everyone on pit, it's just a jumble of different strategies right now. As you can see, some of these drivers still on the track. James Morgan, your leader right now.
Yep, James Morgan is going to lead a lap in this race officially, so the driver who's hoping for some playoff luck is going to go ahead and lead here at Phoenix, at least partially through this pit cycle. There's Steve Loving on by, and Loving not on the same lap right now, so Morgan keeps the lead here. And what's interesting about this is when I talked to James Morgan this week, we talked about, he said, I'm kind of confident for Phoenix. He says he thinks his best chance to win it in is next week at Michigan, and he just got a bit of a bump from Robert Barney, and up the track he goes.
And then Barney ends up a little bit in the wall as well. And that just shows you that, you can't really do anything if you're James Morgan. You've committed to this strategy, this lifestyle of just being the 12 that's sitting on the track that's about a second slower than everyone else. And, if you're the 12, you're just full send trying to do anything you can. It looks like maybe the 12 might be coming down pit road, taking a conservative approach to it. And for James Morgan, obviously, a caution would have been a lifesaver. But right now, that's going to throw the 12 down pit road along with Mike Toomer and Matt Gagnon.
And here comes Doug Evans as well. He'll come down pit road, and he'll come down this time by. And so the difference here, no one mathematically, we think, makes a one-stopper out of this race. But what it does do, for example, for James Morgan, is if we stay green and we do some dash and goes at the end of this race, the amount of gas that James Morgan will need to finish this race could be drastically less than someone else, maybe like Richard Regan Jr., who pitted earlier. So maybe Morgan makes up that time on the second pit stop.
And, looking back, we talked about Colton Lane before, where he got in the pit road way early compared to the rest of the field, and that threw him up to the top spot right now in the running order. Second behind, 1.5 seconds behind is Richard Regan. And you can see that comparison of the two in pit road, pretty similar in the fact that Colton Lane had a great entry along, practically the same of Richard Regan. It was just that time in the box that made the difference. And, that gap could be within a second if Colton Lane didn't have that great box time.
Yeah, see this timing and the interval is here in the bottom of your screen right now. Richard Regan running him down by about, I'd say, roughly 2 to 3/10 of a second per lap. So not a surprise. There's a 13 lap difference on their tires here, Brad. So Lane pitted on lap 55, Regan lap 68. So it's no surprise that Regan is running him down here.
And really, once you look back through the field, I mean, Jeff Evans, outside of Matt Gagnon, further on back there, along with Doug Evans. But going back to Jeff Evans, he's on the freshest tires right now out of this top 13. And he's just trying to do whatever he can, as we have a little bit of a battle shaping up between Jacob Dunn and Steve Loving for the 9th place position. You can see absolutely no one behind them. They have basically anything they want to do. They can just battle it out here without anyone pressuring them from behind.
Yeah, look, the whole track behind them they're so far back behind. And I mean, it's kind of funny because they're right there. They are P9 and 10. They're not last by any means, but it does kind of feel that way aesthetically in that battle. Moving back up front, there is Ted Lowendick. He's still battling with Reese Bogue. I think these two guys have kind of been locked together most of the night within a car length or so of one another. Teddy, of course, on the inside in that pink truck for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. He has the Nerd gummy cluster on the hood. He's got some of his favorite Columbus Blue Jacket hockey players on the outside. And, of course, he's got his son, Theodore Jr. on the back of the truck. He said he put Teddy Jr. back there because he thought no one would want to, bump the car if there was a baby in the back of it.
Especially when, he looks like he's staring into your soul a little bit there if you're running behind Ted Lowendick. I mean, He's got multiple different angles of how, little Junior's looking back at you. But if you're in front of him, like Reese Bogue right now, you don't have to worry about that. And Bogue's able to defend for that position. Bradley Hawley is slowly catching up to these two through all this battling right now. But for now, Ted Lowendick looks like he's not scared to get to the inside yet again of Reese Bogue, as he's able to get that nose in front. But Bogue is going to use that outside power and get a run coming through the dogleg. That's going to be a lot of momentum as they're going basically side by side through the dogleg. Bradley Hawley has caught right up to these two now.
Yeah, it certainly hasn't he? And for Ted Lowendick, this is an important night. Remember, he came in about 43 points to the good. So one solid race likely locks him in on advancing unless some win ends would help take care of that for some reason. But right now, this is a good, solid battle for Lowendick, Hawley, and Bogue. This is third, fourth, and fifth on your screen. Up front, by the way, Richard Regan's about to put Colton Lane under attack.
And Richard Regan, had that big buffer to the cut line, but that win and end situation is definitely on the table now for the 56, as he is able to easily clear the 60 coming through turn 2. Oh, Colton Lane gets into the wall a little bit there. Nothing substantial, but right back to the back bumper of the 56. And obviously that tire difference is going to be that huge difference in times. As you can see a little gaggle of cars here. It looks like Matt Gagnon's joining in the party for this third place battle. He's currently 3 wide going through the dog leg. These three are just sending it in there right now, and it looks like Bradley Hawley is able to take advantage, get that 4th place position, and now looking to the back bumper of Reese Bogue.
Yeah, this is a great battle, isn't it? 4 cars. That's Bogue, that's Hawley, that is Matt Gagnon up there, that's Ted Lowendick up there. So these 4 cars battling it pretty hard. That is Bogue in 3rd, Hawley in 4th, Lowendick back there in P5. So these 3 drivers fighting it out really hard here. Matt Gagnon's up there. He is a lapped car, but not letting up at all. He's back in P15, 1 lap down. And currently Matt right now is fighting that car behind him and Doug Evans. The battle between the 14 car and that bright green Miracle Wheel machine, that is your battle for the lucky dog.
And Richard Regan is putting down some heat, some great laps. That's gonna, end up getting maybe Nick Hunter and Nicholas Seraph in some trouble. Those two are just ahead of Richard Regan. So these two battling it out for the time being for that lucky dog. But you can see now Nick Hunter taking over that lucky dog position, that free pass position, and some others just trying to do whatever they can to stay in front of the 56. But you can't do much when that 56 gets behind it. He is just set on rails right now here in Phoenix.
Yeah, it just feels dominant. This feels pretty awesome as this race goes on. Well, as this race goes on, the thing we need to do is we need to take a moment and step aside and do our Miracle Flow team update. Let's start there with the spooky looking car from Bradley Hawley. And Brad is, oh boy, again getting squeezed by Reese Bogue. And Brad's going to come here up through the corners. Brad's been up front most of the night, currently running P3 or P4, depending upon this battle with Reese Bogue. You see some of the blood splatter on the outside of the car, Brad. I suspect he's hoping not have to get any blood in his hands tonight, but he wants to lock himself in to the next round in any way possible. We move back through the field to find our next Miracle Flow machine. That's back in P8 with Jeff Evans. Jeff, remember, had that run up front. Hold on, we're going to stop the Miracle update because caution is out for the first time.
Oh, my.
30 laps to go. Big whack. Nick Hunter. Oh, my gosh. Doug Evans and more Mike Toomer Jr.'s in there. Wow. Reese Bogue is in there. Reese Bogue was just in our camera shot a second ago. How did he get involved?
Ted Lowendick looks like to be the only playoff driver, I believe, that got involved in all that. But
wow,
man, oh man, that was almost a parking lot on the backstretch.
And that's the scariest part of this track to have it. That's part of why I always believe that maybe the NASCAR and race officials wanted to move this track around, because this is a bad part of the track. But watch this again. Nick Hunter right here. Nick Seraph. They're going to come around, and Nick Hunter, I don't know if he's got loose or if he got some help. And then watch this. I mean, Lomadic tried to avoid it. He got Reese Bogan, Doug Evans. I think he's up, just having back tires on the ground. And if we pause the shot for a second here, let me see if we can count the trucks here. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. At least 7 trucks involved in this wreck, Brad.
I was gonna say you might have to add 8, 9, and 10 to the left of there. I was at the screen
right.
because I think half the field almost ended up in this wreck.
Yeah, a couple may have driven away already. Wow. Wow, that's a big moment here with just about 30 some minutes to go. Full sail pit stops will be underway here. Watch it again. And from that angle, it looks like this Seraph and Hunter make contact, and people kind of try to stab the brakes because this backstraight becomes a parking lot really quickly.
And usually it's at the beginning of the backstretch where, the inner wall starts up out of turn 2, but that was more just all started on the backstretch. You can see the black flag actually there's a black flag for Colton Lane and I think everyone else here because of closed pit entry for all those drivers. But, end up in some EOLs. And I think for Colton Lane and maybe some others that ended up in that list, that's the least of their concerns with the damages they got in that wreck.
Well, we see, based upon the way that the front of this field looks, that some pit stops happened under this caution while we were looking at the replays of the wreck. And we're going to rack it up and see what happens. There goes a few cars maybe around the pace car here. Watch this from Brownie Holly's point of view. He's going to come up out of the corner. He just gets it up on the brake, stays up in the top lane, and barely squeal. No, he didn't squeeze around in Colton Lane. He definitely got some contact there.
And Holly had a lot of points, above that cut line, but still in the pits for damages right now. I mean, currently sitting 15th, but obviously those cars are coming back around. He's going to end up a couple laps down because of this whole ordeal.
Lights in the pace car off. Pace car is down. There's a small field up on the track here. There's Acosta up in first. Richard Regan's in junior. Evans is in third. Jacob Dunn's up there. Steve Loving, Evan Williams. Lots of drivers trying to get some damage fixed at 1 to go. They're going to rush to get up to the front of the field here. But right now, this restart, I believe, is in the hands of Nicholas Acosta. The green flag is going to come out right about now, and we go back to racing in Phoenix after a wild, chaotic crash on the back straight.
And Acosta didn't pit, currently sitting on some 24-lap old tires. So the 816 going to try and do everything he can to stay in front of the 56. But, we've said that, I think, twice tonight, and it happened almost immediately. But maybe Jacob Dunn's going to try and use the 816. They're 3 wide for the lead.
They're 3 wide for the lead. His teammates been in the bottom in the middle. Acosta's going to fall back. Regan's going to get around as well. Acosta's going to fall back through the field. And Jacob Dunn. And I'm going to guess, if I had to take a guess here, Brad, that Acosta didn't want to stay out. I bet due to the calamity of people lining up for the caution correctly, I'm going to guess Acosta wasn't able to pit because there's no reason to take that risk here at Phoenix if you don't have to.
Right, and we saw that's about a second gap or second. You're gonna have your pace is gonna be slower by a second for anyone over 20 laps. So he's going to be going down this field real quick. I mean, right now there's only 10 cars on that lead lap, as you saw Richard Regan taking the fastest lap now. And like you said earlier, Derrick, I mean, the fastest lap is probably not going to stand until somebody at the end here gets those tires going on the cooler surfaces.
Yep. Well, lots of implications happened here about 5 minutes ago. Look at that board now. Only 5 drivers, maybe 6 drivers up in the top 10. And lots of damage, lots of hurt trucks here. So some drivers we thought were going to kind of cruise their way in, maybe had that little flirt with bad luck, if not a full encounter. We'll wait to see how that plays out as this night goes on. Jacob Dunn is still trying to attack. He's still trying to get up there and fight Richard Regan Jr. He's wanting to do it respectfully. And Dunn's sort of in an awkward spot here, Brad. When you're a non-playoff driver, I think there's sort of this stigma or this expectation that you're going to go race out there, but you're going to kind of almost lay over, right? You're going to roll over and just sort of let the playoff drivers by. But for these drivers, they're still out there racing for something. They're still out there wanting to have fun and race these cars, but they need to do it politely so they don't end up impacting something more important.
Yeah, I think last week at Martinsville, we're not going to see anyone do a bump and run if, you're trying to get around someone and you're not in the playoffs. But nonetheless, I mean, you got to keep it clean and concise, because you get in that wreck, that just means a lot more things are going to tumble. As you know, honestly, being that non-playoff driver, you still have the desire to win here tonight, and that can even, make some more fun in the playoffs, as no one gets the win, so no one's locked in. So we have only 2 winners potentially getting through into the round of 4 on wins. So, a lot of things could happen here if Jacob Dunn gets the lead, but Richard Regan, yet again, still, fast, still furious, and he's not giving up that lead very easily, even if you're a playoff driver or not.
Regan, of course, has the real-life racing experience. Maybe some drivers not surprised to see the 56 up front here at Phoenix. And I think for each of the 3 tracks, when you look up ahead, we get a short track-ish style race at Phoenix. We got the big 2-mile track.
Oh!
Hold on. Contact. Regan saves it. Dunn's on by. Here comes Jeff Evans. Here comes Steve Loving. And now we're 3, if not 4 wide through the dogleg.
And that's what the opportunities can provide here in Phoenix through the dog leg. Something happens coming out of turn 4, and everyone just sprawls. So you see now we have Jeff Evans up at the point, but it's a 6-car battle for the lead now, including the top 4 right now being playoff drivers. But, we kind of talked about that where, Jacob Dunn was trying to take it easy. Looking back at the replay now, he gets the inside corner panel and sends the 56 up a little bit.
Maybe, or you could almost argue that maybe Regan tried to pinch the corner, and I mean Dunn was right there. Where was Dunn supposed to move? I don't know, but here's the thing that happened as we were watching Evans and others go by. Dunn gets up top here, and he sort of falls back in his own way. He apologizes for this wreck. This contact, if you will. He just says, "Hey, I don't want that. I don't want it that way. I don't want to be up there in front because of that." And he put himself back in about P6 right now on the track. To Regan, probably not that much of an apology, but it does mean something.
Right, and you feel horrible most of the time whenever you cause a wreck like that. And we did have that little discussion about playoff drivers versus non-playoff drivers, as now we have that battle nose-to-nose for the lead between 2 playoff drivers, as Richard Regan looking to the inside here, seeing that foot cam yet again. Try to power his way on by the 51 right now, coming out of turn 4, unable to do it, still nose-to-nose, but gonna cut the dog leg and get that advantage going into turn 1.
Well, if you're Jeff Evans, you're probably wishing Jacob Dunn would have got him a little bit more loose, don't you? You're probably wishing he would have put him a little bit further back, as Richard Regan moves back up through the field and takes the lead yet again here with about 25.5 minutes to go. Evans now makes the undercut. I thought he backs out of it, and we'll race yet around another lap. Well, I think what we should do is pick up probably with our Miracle Flow team update, and it's pretty easy to do because we can pick up with Jeff Evans, who's back in P2. Jeff is where we left off, in fact. Jeff's had a pretty solid run. Remember, he had those battles up front earlier, Brad, and he's had a pretty solid night, so he just took the lead momentarily, and he would love to get it back. We'll go back through the field. Remember, we've already touched on Bradley Holly, who's already now pretty far back in this field. I think we'd find either Doug Evans or Nicholas Schwartz. Who's next in the grid? The cameras will show us, and we'll wait and see who pops up. It's going to be Nicholas Schwartz in that black and orange Miracle Flow. We'll celebrate Halloween. Currently back in P16 is Nicholas Schwartz. Had a pretty quiet playoff season. Back on track this week after being out last week and just kind of riding around here through the field. And then the last truck we tried to do when the Miracle Flow update was Doug Evans. He, of course, now on pit road for over 8.5 minutes, and I think out of this race. So, unfortunately for Doug, a rough night as Schwartz almost up in the wall out of the... Miracle Flow is more than hair care. It is built for the bold. They were founded in Rochester, New York back in 2015, and they were created to elevate both your look and your lifestyle. Made in the USA and crafted for real performance, it's trusted by those who show up ready. Whether it's a game night out with the boys or a night out on the town, no shortcuts, no gimmicks, just results. Miracle Flow, because your flow isn't just style, it's a statement. Right now, I say the statement's been made all night long. Brad by Richard Regan Jr. led nearly every lap so far. Already up a half a second on Jeff Evans. And Jacob Dunn's trying to work his way back through. Can he make a statement and prove he can get back up there and battle with it again?
him and Evan Williams were going at it for a little bit there, but I mean, Evan Williams started the night 21st and obviously might have got some help from that caution, but nonetheless up to the 6th position, up 15 positions. So, you know, the 6 machine getting up there when it matters most. And you can see they have a pretty comfortable gap back to Robert Barney and those well, really just Robert Barney. And then you got about 5 seconds back to Acosta. And, you know, Zach Williams, Ted Lowendick still in the lead lap, but, you know, getting pretty far back there. I think Lowendick definitely has some damage from that caution that's slowing him down a bit. And if you're the 13, obviously you might want to see a couple more yellows come out, try to get that damage repair, and obviously try to stay on the lead lap.
Well, I think it's worth noting real quick here as we're watching this race go around, about 22 minutes to go. Remember, we came in tonight, Mark Kalin, he was up 10 points on the line. Mark Kalin's not having he's having involved, I believe, in that wreck earlier. You don't see his orange number. Oh, so he's up in P3. He's having a pretty solid night. Sorry, I lost my numbers for a second. So he's going to be up 10 on the night. He'll likely do pretty well. James Morgan came into tonight minus 10 on the cut line. He's had a good night so far. Led a lap, but currently running back in P14. Jeff Evans is 1 spot ahead of Mark Kalin right now. He's up in P2. That'll serve him well. Steve Loving also up involved in the battle. He's right behind Mark Kalin. So they're looking at 2, 3, and 4. All these drivers are almost hugging each other in the playoff points right now. In fact, Loving and Evans came into tonight tied 11 points behind the cut line. And then Robert Barney, who's back in P7, is 25 points behind the cut line. So those the playoff drivers involved in that wreck a little bit ago were Bradley Holly and Ted Lowendick. Holly, again, almost guaranteed a lock into these playoffs as long as the truck turns on and he moves and takes the first lap. Lowendick, we'll wait and see how that plays out after this race is over. But for the people on the cut line, it's a pretty solid night, Brad.
Yeah, and there's definitely some good points to be gained. Unfortunately, you know, for a lot of those drivers, like you said, they're all just jumbled together. And, you know, that cut line is just, you want to start out the round of 8 on the right foot, but at the same time, you don't want to, you know, start yourself in a hole, you know, coming out of Phoenix. So right now, Ted Lowendick, I think, obviously we talked about him a little bit. He's in an okay position right now with everything that's happened to him right now. But, you know, if you're Mark Kalin, Jeff Evans, Steve Loving, you're doing exactly what you want to do. At least get in that top 5, have a good race. And right now, looking back at Ted Lowendick, you can see currently sitting in that P10 position. Got some other drivers around him and currently getting put a lap down actually by Richard Regan. And you can see the rest of the leaders now coming around as well. And Lowendick just trying to keep that truck on the track, try to finish out this race. And currently sitting in the, you know, free pass position. He's got a while until Zach Williams might end up being that lucky dog for the free pass. Hey,
someone should tell Teddy and his crew there's a bumper right behind him. If they could probably get that thing attached to the back of the truck in the next caution. He's missing one currently. I'm not sure if those things are. I mean, that's not. Well, you can make it fit. A little duct tape, a little super glue. Try to get that thing back on there. Currently, Ted is childless. There's no longer a baby on board on the back of that truck as Teddy Jr. is missing after that caution. Now under 20 minutes to go. Richard Regan still up in front. It's Regan, it's Kalin, Evans, Loving, and Dunn, your top 5. And really so far it's been a lot of great racing tonight, Brad. A lot of side-by-side, lots of battles. But 2 key moments, one of them being the caution and one of them being that contact that briefly kind of broke this race open when Dunn and Regan made contact.
And obviously, it didn't affect Regan too much. He got back up to the lead pretty quickly. And, I mean, Mark Kalin's doing a great job of keeping at least within the second of the 56. But, you know, that caution, really, it's, you know, crazy to kind of say that one caution shaped a lot of this field. But, you know, half the field is a lap down because of either damages or something along the lines of that caution. And there was a lot of fast drivers also in that wreck. We talked about Bradley Hawley, fast all season, ended up in that wreck, along with Reese Bogue, who was fast all night, ended up getting involved as well. So, you know, looking back here to the battle for 4th, you can see Jacob Dunn on the back end of these other 2 drivers right in front of him, Evan Williams, trying to see if he can get to the 4th position. But Jacob Dunn also trying to make that little sandwich and maybe, you know, make Evan Williams a little more anxious coming through 1 and 2 here, try to disrupts his timing a little bit while he's trying to, maybe set up this move for fourth and maybe get an opportunity to jump up to fourth again.
Yeah, great battle happening right here. Jacob Dunn is trying his best. He's in P6. Wants to get to P5 and get a top 5 result tonight. Brad, one of the cool things we do here on Green Flag TV, sometimes we sit back and we do a lot of talking. Every now we're going to let the microphones do the talking for us. So what we're going to do, we're going to crank up the microphones. You're going to ride along with Jacob Dunn, and you're going to feel the noise with Jacob Dunn at Phoenix. Welcome back here, Green Flag TV. Derrick Watson, Brad Daniels here on the call tonight with Dustin Ollis pushing the buttons, making us look and sound good. We got to ride on board there for a little bit with Jacob Dunn and watching this battle. And this battle has not stopped. This is a battle right now that is 4th, 5th, and 6th. That's Loving up there. He's got a car in the middle of this battle that's not on the lead lap. And he's got Jacob Dunn on back. So Loving, remember, trying to hold on to every spot he can, Brad, because playoff points. That's Evan Williams behind him. That is Evan. Steve Loving, Evan Williams, and Jacob Dunn. I got my paint schemes confused here for a second. Sorry. So this is a 3-car battle that has not stopped in the last, 5, 6, 7 minutes?
It feels like you threw a blanket on these 3 for the entirety of those last 6 or 7 minutes. And, it's been Steve Lovin holding the charge, and Evan Williams pretty much just stuck between the 2, trying to see if he can get around, but also not give up that 5th position spot. So this battle for 4th, not losing any momentum at all. You could see the 2 drivers out in front of these 2 have a little bit of distance to catch up to each other before they get to Richard Regan. But right now, Mark Kalin actually catching up a decent bit. I think he might have sent it in there a little bit compared to Richard Regan when I was looking there. But I feel like every time Evan Williams looks to the inside, we have Steve Loving just pulling on that outside line. So, it just seems like a very... I'm trying to think of, it might seem like you're going insane just seeing the 27 able to just pull on back past the 6 every time he looks to the inside.
What's that thing? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, for right now, that's what it's got to feel like for Williams. Is there's a truck up? That's Nicholas Dina in the wall, and we're going to be good. But that was a bit of a scary moment. So, that was a bit of insanity right there in and of itself, Brad, as we use that word a couple times in the same moment here. But they're all going to stay green. Now, here's the thing I want to talk about. we were kind of starting to focus on a little bit who is good to make it all the way here. Remember, we thought the pit window was 70 laps. Everyone pitted under green for or at the 60 lap mark. We think our estimate for our math, which is common math, who knows, is well, let's see. I'm gonna draw it out for you. We'll try to like I'm a world-class artist here. Let's see if we can draw it out here on the screen for you. Here, hold on. So we're thinking it's about 68 laps. This is a horrible 6. This is really embarrassing. 68 laps is what we're thinking is going to run. I'm just going to remove that. That's horrible. I was not a Check++ artist in kindergarten. But the point here I have is look at how far everyone's gone. As we look here at the stints on the left side of your screen, this one I can probably do correctly using a square tool up here. This is embarrassing. We're just going to forget I did this. And and so anyways, the point I'm trying to make, Brad, is who do you think, can you think everyone makes it on gas? Do you think we're going to be tight? Do you think people are playing possum? What are you expecting here?
I think it's going to be tight, but I think these drivers might be able to make it towards the end here. Obviously, a caution would help them get to the end, but obviously that also throws in the potential for people to get fresh tires if they want. But we'll cross that bridge if we get there. But nonetheless, we got 12 minutes left in this race. And like you said, we're getting right to that limit there of 68 laps. I think these drivers will end up at around 65, 66 laps. So as long as they have tires under them, I think they should be able to get to the end here. And if you're Richard Regan, I mean, I feel like his tires have never really gone away. They've just been so, he's been on rails all night here in Phoenix, and it seems like, the rest of the field is just trying to keep up with the 56. Mark Kalin falls back to about a second behind the 56, and you can see these three, I think they have the same exact tires, maybe the same exact trucks too, because they are unable to get away from each other. As the 3 is going to send it in there. Jacob Dunn gets a little brake heavy at the end there.
Yeah, and of course, I remember everyone pitted basically the same time after that caution with that big wreck here on the back straight. So you have to think maybe just minus your driving style, minus maybe how you're going up or down the gears, or if you are, how hard you're on the brakes or the gas pedal. That's what's going to determine who can and can't make it on gas. I think the way we'll start to know there's a concern, Brad, if we see Regan begin to slow the pace. Right now he's up by over a second over Kalin, over 3 seconds over Jeff Evans. If we get to the point here in a bit where we start to see maybe that Regan backs it up a little bit, then I think we know the fuel save is on.
And I mean, we kind of talked about this whole thing. You see Nicholas Acosta is currently in 9th, sending it down pit road. And, this
he's
might
the truck
be
stayed out under caution.
Oh, that is correct. So he was kind of the asterisk from the sounds of it then.
Yeah, so the important thing to note, though, is you're right. I mean, he is sort of the asterisk, and it's a big note. And I think the biggest note is he went 65 laps. Now, some of those were under caution, so you have to maybe count that a little bit and maybe knock off a couple of numbers off of that. But I'm wondering right now who thinks they are, who thinks they're not good. Are there drivers possibly who just say, hey, listen, I'm not there, so I'm just going to run as hard as I can, and I know I have to pit. That's sometimes what you have to do, is sometimes you just have to kind of throw in the towel and hope something good happens.
And if you're any of these three currently battling for 4th, I mean, you can also just try to, use up your tires now and then end up like Steve Loving, where he's just putting on a block party for this battle for 4th. The 27 unwilling to give up that 4th place position, no matter how close Evan Williams gets to him, as both of them are just riding the wall through 1 and 2 there. I almost thought there was going to be a little bit of scrapage there, but both of them able to keep it clean through that turn, as Jacob Dunn is the only one that didn't really get anywhere near the wall, but still on the back bumper of the 6 of Evan Williams.
We've been kind of using some of the Halloween terms, like creeper and terrorizer and terrifier, but I want to talk for a second, and we're both drivers, Brad, that phenomenon that happens. What happened right there is basically, Steve got it, hold on, we'll come back to, we're good, okay, start saying, what happened there a second was Steve Loving got up into the wall, and then that driver behind him, with Evan Williams, sort of had that fixation, that little phenomena happens. You watch someone ahead of you hit the wall, and then you do it, and you get so mad at yourself, like, what did I just do there? Like, it's so weird to watch a driver, you just kind of follow him into the wall.
And another thing that can happen, if you're following another truck right there, like Jacob Dunn did, you're just, hoping you're looking for your breaking point. But the truck in front, it looked like Evan Williams might have got checked up a little bit more than what Jacob Dunn was anticipating there, and ends up just. I don't think they made too much contact, but it definitely got Jacob Dunn out of sorts going through 1 and 2 there. And now, I mean, Richard Regan, yet again, you can see he is currently on an island of his own, just trying to do whatever he can to, preserve these tires. Mark Kalin keeping it at about 1.3 seconds behind the 56, but unable to gain any, in these final laps here. He's going to have to start mounting a charge if he has any shot of trying to push or walk his way into the round of 4.
Yep, that's Zachary Burnt. He just went a second lap down, by the way, so that's who Richard Regan just passed on through, as we're now about 7.5 minutes left here on the clock. And I think, Brad, it's appropriate to hold on. Regan's way up top. That's a little higher than normal. We're a little slow to the corner, but he's got it worked out. All appears to be good. We'll keep an eye on that. But Brad, I think with 7.5 minutes on the clock, it's important to ask here, what is your favorite Halloween candy?
I don't think you can go wrong with any Reese's peanut butter cups. I'm a huge Reese's guy. I mean, no matter if it's a Christmas tree, a pumpkin, an Easter, or like the eggs they also have during Easter, like any of them are. That's just that's my stuff. That's my type of candy. But what's your go-to candy here in Halloween, or I guess in general too?
Yeah, so I mean, Reese's peanut butter cups are good. I'm a fan of payday bars. I love payday bars. I know it's kind of a hit or miss. Three Musketeers are also pretty solid. So I'm good on almost all Halloween candy. Here's my hot take of the night. Candy corn is awful.
The
only thing worse than candy corn are those big giant wax pumpkins. I don't know if they have the candy pumpkins, I guess you call them. Those things are awful.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. That hot take, I think I would agree with 100%. I can eat them, but, it's not what I'm going to every time. It only comes out during Halloween, and I completely agree. I don't think they should be coming back out. But right now, it looks like Jacob Dunn looking to the inside again.
Ryan, isn't he? Yeah. Speaking of which, there is no Halloween broadcast this year on Green Flag TV. Tomorrow night, the Speed Cup Series will be here at Phoenix. Nolan Rimple and others on the call there. Saturday night, myself and Nolan Rimple will be here, or be at Daytona, for the opening of their Speedway Blitz Series. Sunday night, Justin Prince, Emmett Crow will be at Auto Club Speedway for the Blazing Pedals ARCA League as they have their penultimate race to decide who's in their finals of the playoffs. Monday night, the High Tide Racing League, Nolan Rimple, Justin Prince are there at Auto Club. And then it goes on. Look at that Mid-Link Racing Series at Charlotte Roval, OMSRL at Auto Club, and in 1 week from tonight, we're here at, let's say, Michigan. I'm not allowed to use the M in the month of November, being an Ohio fan, but we'll say at Michigan next week. So a full list there of broadcasts, Brad. We're over 40 broadcasts in the month of October here on Green Flag TV. So lots of exciting action happening all month long.
Talking about exciting action, it looks like these three are able now to battle it out, coming to the final 5 laps or final 5 minutes of this race, as it looks like Jacob Dunn is going to be trying to take the 4th position away from Steve Loving, and able to do so. I mean, now, Jacob Dunn might have saved his tires a little bit running in the back of this pack and just able to cleanly get that pass done.
Yeah, beautiful move by Jacob Dunn. Maybe deciding he had something left here. This is Ted Lowendick on track. Ted, of course, involved in that wreck earlier. He's 2 laps down at the moment, just kind of riding around here. And this will kind of break up that bag. Oh, hold on, contact. Wow, that's a caution. That's... Wow. I want to see it again before we say too much, but that was just a moment, I think, of a fast car and a slow car coming together. And this is going to make for one mad dash at Phoenix, Brad.
Gonna have a shootout here. Looking back at the replay. Oh, just right into the...
Did Williams not... all right, I mean, car outside, that's all I'm going to say.
I don't know. I really don't know. I think, obviously, that we saw Steve Loving was up there already, and Evan Williams, I think, was just going up there, and maybe Ted went a little lower than what Evan was thinking.
Well, let's take a look, see what's happening here. There's going to be some pit stops down here, and Richard Regan pits, or excuse me, Richard Regan does not pit, to get that correct here, but everyone else does. Kalen, Barney, Evans, Dunn, and more. So maybe not Robert Barney. Maybe Barney's moving through the field here. We're going to wait and see who's coming down pit road, and we'll get it all sorted out in a second. But this is going to be wild here with only a couple laps left here, Brad. Our leader is going to be out on old tires. Watch this wreck one more time. This is from... there's a car out there. I don't know. Well, luckily, it's not for us to decide. There's a race review committee to look at it. But I'll tell you, I mean, even if it's a slow truck up top, I don't know. So we'll wait and see what happens there. Let's get this all sorted out. Pit stops are done. Let's rack it up. It's Regan Jr., Zach Williams, Robert Barney, your top three. They did not pit. Then it's Kalen, Evans, Dunn, Williams, Loving, and the lead lap back through P8. This is going to be, what, chaotic at a minimum?
Yeah, that's definitely the minimum. I mean, you got 58 laps between these guys and fourth on back. And if you're Robert Barney, I mean, why not? You were sitting back there, I believe, in the 8th position before all of this. You're trying to, fight for your playoff life, and that's going to end up throwing him on the outside going into this restart. So it's just, we saw the dogleg get used a lot, and if, any of these top three spin their tires just a little bit, the drivers that are fourth on back are just ready to capitalize and use that dogleg as much as they can.
So let me paint a picture for you here of what's going to happen. And this is, I'm not saying this is intentional or that it's anything nefarious. I'm just pointing out the obvious to you. You have Richard Regan Jr. leading. He's the team owner of Regan Bogue Motorsports. He has the 26 outside him. That's a teammate. He has an 89 behind him. That's a teammate. And then why is Zachary burnt up there? I don't understand that. And we have more around. This is a weird moment, and I don't quite get it. We're going to go green here with about a minute 15, likely 3 laps to go on the clock. Regan waits and waits and waits and steps on the pedal, and green flag is out at Phoenix. Oh boy, with all those cars in the way, Brad, I don't know that new tires are going to matter. Look at them spread out 3-4 wide through the dog leg. Can anyone catch our race leader?
I was going to say, it looked like Kalen's going for it. He's already up into that 3rd spot now. You can see him right behind Robert Barney, looking to the inside of the 26, and you can see the 26 is going to, wreck on behind.
Caution. We're done. We're done. Unfortunately, we're done. Whatever happened in the back, Kalen just kind of scrubs the wall for fun there. The question will be, did Kalen get to 2nd before the caution came out? We'll wait and see how they line them up here. I don't think that happened. Not sure what the wreck in the back was yet, Brad. I thought I saw one truck spun around. May have been Nick Seraph in the back of the field here, but you have to think Mark Kalen was going to put up a hell of a fight had that stayed green. Here's Nick Seraph, and he's going to come on around by himself and just right in front of others, cautions out. But again, Brad, you have to think, had that stayed green, Mark Kalen had something for your race leader.
Oh yeah, he jumped through, I think, 8 or 9 cars. That was in the dog leg alone. That would have been an absolute blitz. Just watch on board here. You could see every inch of the dog leg used, and those fresh tires just pulling that 62.
Watch this here. Oh, under Matt Gagnon.
What a squeeze there from the 62. And yeah, like you said, he had a lot more to offer, but I guess a little too late. And Robert Barney is a winner from that whole exchange as well.
I mean, he definitely is a winner by I had to think by inches, maybe feet of a distance from the caution came out. Say, we're going through a white flag lap. This is over. So let's walk you through what we see right now. Richard Regan in. He is your winner. He was likely in on points. He was guaranteed in on points. So he's won this race. Robert Barney's in 2nd. Mark Kalen's in 3rd. Williams and Jeff Evans in your top 5. We'll go through the rest of the results in a little bit here. And that was going to be fun. Unfortunately for that caution, Nick Seraph just got it loose and on around, but that was shaping up to be everything we could have wanted it to be.
And I mean, the win went to the
so let's
truck.
Look at this here. Go ahead, sorry.
We're going to look back here.
That's the moment of caution right there. Yeah, so Kalen was clearly behind. There's no argument there. Well, once again this season, the winner of the race, and for the 2nd week in a row, the driver of the 56 in that pink and white machine is Richard Regan Jr. He'll burn it down, he'll celebrate and advance in the playoffs, and he is your winner at Phoenix.
For the truck, I mean, we felt like was on rails all night. Obviously, I don't know if there's a truck that was more suited for the win here tonight. Mark Kalin gave it a good run there at the end, but the 56 walking his way into the championship 4.
To focus a little bit more, maybe than the rest of the field, on the finale at Auto Club, and just to focus on that and test and test and test and feel comfortable as he's carrying out race for the Cure paint scheme. He'll burn it down here on the front straight. We'll see some burnouts from the 56 as he comes back across the line, and he'll celebrate a victory for the second week in a row. Well, let's see. Each week, Rich has kind of done these pretty impressive burnouts, Brad, down the track, sometimes getting it back into the corners before the burnout breaks. How far do we get this week? We're almost to the start-finish line, and no, that might be it. Hold on. Yeah, he's just doing donuts.
Doesn't want to cross that start-finish line. Oh, there he goes.
All right, well, we already walked you through part of the unofficial results, but let's go and take a look top to bottom at tonight's results as we begin the Regan Bogue Motorsports post-race show. Richard Regan Jr. is in first, with Robert Barney back in P2. Mark Kallen's in third, Zach Williams in fourth, and Jeff Evans back in P5. Evan Williams back in P6, with Jacob Dunn seventh. Steve Loving eighth. These are the last cars and the only cars on the lead lap. Nicholas Acosta 1 lap down, and then Zachary Burnt 2 laps down in P10.
Looking further on back here, Matt Gagnon finishes in 11th. James Morgan, a playoff driver, finishes in 12th. Nick Hunter in 13th. Nicholas Seraph and Nicholas Schwartz finished 14th and 15th. Colton Lane finishes 16th. Ted Lowendick finishes 17th. Nicholas Godina ends up in 18th. Mike Toomer Jr. in 19th. And rounding out your top 20 is Doug Evans in the 41.
Yep, these are drivers who had a really bad night or maybe didn't even finish. Reese Bogue, Bradley Holly, and then Colton Easterday never even took a lap back in P20. That's a look top to bottom at tonight's unofficial race result. Well, now it's time to begin the Regan Bogue Motorsports post-race show. And at Regan Bogue Motorsports, speed is just the starting point, but success is built through discipline, focus, and development. At Regan Bogue Motorsports, the iRacing coaching is built to develop winners through one-on-one training. The focus is on the fundamentals that turn fast drivers into champions via smart racecraft, disciplined decision-making, and pressure-proof performance. This is not about quick fixes. It's about building a foundation for lasting success. Regan Bogue Motorsports, developed for wins, built for championships. Well, you have to argue that probably that is very true, that they're built for championships, and we're waiting to see if our driver is going to be available. So let's do this. Let's go backward. While waiting for Richard to maybe be done celebrating. Let's go backwards tonight. We'll go third, second, first. We'll welcome into the broadcast booth of Mark Kalin. Mark, I guess, and maybe you have a better word, it feels like the mood right now has got to be heartbreaking, right?
Yeah, absolutely, Derrick. Just really upset with the way things turned out, and yeah, I'm happy that I got a podium position to finish, but I got screwed. That's all I can say, Derrick.
So you came in to tonight 10 points to the good. You're going to finish in P3. Only one playoff driver. I guess technically two. It had to be a Robert Barney and Richard Regan. So likely you hold on to that cut line. Maybe even make some ground up on Ted Lowendick for the next spot up. But as you look ahead to Michigan and COTA, what's on your mind?
I like Michigan. Michigan's been good to me. But COTA, I'm still a little iffy about. I'm going to have to put some extra practice in, but frankly, I shouldn't have even been up in the top 3 tonight. If it wasn't for that big wreck, Derrick, I wouldn't have been there. So I guess I am happy. I am for sure happy with the result, but I'm very upset with the way it ended.
So walk me through, if it stays green, if there's not the spin in the back, give yourself the old statistical win probability. We see it like the football games and the sports things in real life. What do you think your win probability was of getting around Rich with about 3 laps to go?
100%. 100%. I was going to win that race.
Fair enough. All right. Well, listen, Mark, it's always a pleasure watching your race. I got one last question tonight. This Friday's Halloween. What is Mark Kalen's favorite Halloween candy?
Well, it's a lot of people's least favorite, but candy corn.
Oh, I despise you. Awful.
I
Well,
knew
don't
that
watch
was
the
coming.
podcast because there might have been some candy corn slander about 10 minutes ago.
If I recall, last Halloween there was some slander about candy corn as well. So I'm
Well,
okay with it. I like it. That's all that
call-
matters to me.
This is what we call a pattern, Mark. It's what we call a pattern. Well, listen, it's always a pleasure watching your race. Anyone you want to give a shout out to or say hello to?
Yeah, for sure. I want to give a shout out to my wife and parents for supporting me and watching the races back. I want to give a shout out to the Woodaback crew for all their hard work with practice and everything. Lotus Dynamic Designs for sponsoring the truck this season. All the organizers and managers that put on the league, and of course you guys up in the booth that put on an awesome broadcast that make it fun to go back and watch it the next day.
Thank you so much for all that. We'll see you soon and enjoy your night.
Thank you. Y'all have a good one and see you next week.
Next week, that is Mark Kalen, come home P3. You can just hear the disappointment in his voice, Brad.
Yeah, unfortunate set of events at that last stage, but we're going to jump down here to our P2 finisher and Robert Barney. Robert, you got a copy?
Gotcha, Brad.
Well, tonight you came in 25 points under the cut line, and, getting that podium, a second place finish is definitely going to help your round of 4 expectations. Take us through that end of the race, that last, caution call, and just how everything played out in your mind.
Yeah, I had a really good fast truck tonight, and I was hoping to battle for, at least the top 5. I got caught up in that caution. I had like 3 minutes of repair that I couldn't get fixed. So that last caution, I decided to take a big gamble and stay out, and luckily it worked out.
And, it definitely worked out and gave you momentum here in the round of 8. And looking ahead here to, the next 2 races in the round of 8, are you feeling confident? Because, it's a two very different tracks than Phoenix here tonight.
Yeah, I'm confident for Michigan. I'm kind of excited. I think that's kind of like a must-win for me. I'm not great on road courses, so that one is a toss-up. I'll just have to battle attrition there and see what happens.
And then tonight, with Halloween coming up, we asked Mark Kalen before, but what is your favorite candy? It's Halloween season. We got to ask.
I don't think you can go wrong with Reese's Cups.
Oh, hey,
There it is.
I was in the same boat.
There it is. Yeah.
There we go. Well, it sounds like we're sharing one mind here tonight, Robert. But before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out the team, Respoke Motorsports. Rich winning the race here. It's fun racing with these guys. Learn a lot. I'm happy to be in the top 8 here, and looking forward to see if we can crack that top 4.
Well, you got the momentum here in Phoenix tonight, and we hope to see you up in the booth here, maybe in the next 2 races here as you continue your charge in the round of 8 here, Robert. Have a good night.
Yep, I'm setting that goal. You guys have a great night.
That was your
That
second
is
place
Robert
finisher,
Barney.
Robert Barney. We're going to send it back up with Derrick with our race winner now.
Well, we said at Regenboog Motorsports was about, built for championships. Well, talk to the driver who's locked himself in to the ability to possibly win that championship in a couple years of Auto Club. Richard Regan, you get to add yet another win sticker in the background there. How does it feel to win at Phoenix?
Man, it feels really good. I made this my goal this week, and I didn't get to practice, but I've been thinking a lot about this race and watching a lot of stuff and trying to study up on what happened last time we were here and try to prepare myself as much as I could to try to lock in tonight. So yeah, it feels really good to get the job done. Unfortunate there at the end that the race was kind of a mess, but we'll have to see what we can do better going forward on that end.
So a few questions. I'll start with the end of the race and work my way backwards. Had it stayed green, what was your level of concern that Mark Kalen was coming?
Oh, there was no shot that I was gonna have any competition for him. I mean, I had probably like 40 something, 50 something laps on my tires there, and I mean, you've seen how much ground he made in one corner. So yeah, he would have blown my doors off.
Surprised you were the only person to stay out?
A little bit. I'm not gonna lie, I forgot that we advanced cautions. But I also thought that there'd be a few guys that would stay out with me, knowing that this is a short track. Granted, we were pretty clean tonight. That a lot of stuff can happen when it gets down to the end of the race. And I know I was just surprised to not see a couple of the guys that are below the cut line in the playoffs, or at least more people try to stay out and try to get some points on them.
So I think my last question is, you're about halfway-ish through the race, maybe a little before, you had a moment with Jacob Dunn where you got loose, you saved the truck. What was your impression from inside the truck of what may have happened there, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was just hard racing. We were racing hard a couple laps before that, and I mean, we're racing to lock ourselves into the championship race, so I mean, we're not going to give each other that much room. And I think he just overcooked his entry a little bit into 3 and barely tagged me in the left rear quarter panel, but I know it wasn't intentional at all. And I do appreciate that he let off after we made contact and gave at least my spot back. And I know it cost him more spots. And, it takes a lot to do that. Even though people get into people all the time by accident, a lot of people don't do that. So definitely want to say thank you to him for giving the spot back at least.
All right, buddy. Well, Friday is Halloween. I suppose you get to dress up as a Phoenix race winner. But what I do really want to know is, besides the obvious answer of anything from Kaylee Sweet Creations, what is your favorite Halloween candy?
Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
There it is. That is
2 for
two.
3.
You're 2 of the 3. Yeah, you're 2 for 3. You and your teammate Robert Barney. Do you know Mark Kalin said candy corn?
That's disgusting.
There it is.
That's absolutely
There it is.
disgusting. Now, I will add, with the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, it has to be frozen. So I put it in the freezer for like a minute or 2 beforehand, and it's so much better.
See, I freeze Thin Mints, the Girl Scout cookies. I never froze a peanut butter cup before. It's interesting.
You should definitely try it.
I will try it. All right. Well, listen, buddy, we'll let you get out of here and celebrate. I know you want to do it, so I'm going to ask anyone you want to say hello to or give a shout out to.
Yeah, I gotta give a shout out to Susan G. Komen, Race for the Cure. It was great having them on board for the month of October. I gotta give a shout out to Mission 22, Nina's and Paints, Mr. Hedge Photography, Multiple Sclerosis Society, Stant Analyzer, just everyone that helps support Regenboog Motorsports. Everyone that's on Regenboog Motorsports had a couple great runs going tonight for our guys, so that's great to see. Everyone that supports the league, Outlap Motorsports, and then you guys at Green Flag TV.
It's always a pleasure watching the race. We'll see you next week in Michigan. See if you can do it again.
Thank you.
All right, that is Richard Regan Jr., and that will wrap up our podium interviews for this evening. Well, Brad, a pretty fun, exciting night. Lots of drama towards the end as we see the green cactus. And even for the first time tonight, we see the green cactus on the screen. In fact, it was a fun night action.
Yeah, Phoenix definitely did not disappoint. A lot of great, clean racing, and obviously towards the end, a lot of calamity. You had your peaks and valleys here in Phoenix, but the last short track per se of these playoffs, and moving into Michigan, it should just be a whole different type of story.
It will be a different story indeed. A different story next week. The big track at Michigan International Speedway. MIS is up next week, November 5th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Myself and Evan Posocco on the call. And make sure you don't miss it here on Green Flag TV. Stick around as well, because after this, we're taking it to the Beer League. They're racing over at the Charlotte Roval. So if you stay tuned to the YouTube feed, you should feed right over into that right after this. Well, once again, congratulations to Richard Regan Jr., your winner here at Phoenix. For Derrick Watson, it's me. For Brad Daniels and Dustin Ollis, I want to say thank you so much for watching. If you missed this race, you can catch this race and every race from the Outlap Motorsports Truck Series here on the Green Flag TV YouTube channel. So long and good night from Phoenix.